Hello and welcome to the Heal Yourself with me, Sarah Dawkins podcast. We share people who've already healed themselves, along with health and wellness tips from myself. Hello and welcome back to another edition of Heal Yourself with me, Sarah Dawkins. My guest today is Criss Madrigal, who is a 20-year Fortune 500 leader turned mindset and growth coach. She has become an international best-selling author, speaker, podcast host, and she's launched her own publishing company. As a Latina entrepreneur, Criss is on a mission to elevate the voices of 1 million women worldwide by 2029 through her coaching, speaking, publishing, and podcasting endeavors. Her goal is to inspire women to trust in their inner power and become influential change makers within their own communities. Welcome, Criss.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm excited to be here this morning.
Oh, I'm loving having you here. Thank you for joining me. Would you like to share with our listeners what you've healed and how you've healed it?
Absolutely, Sarah. And thank you for the invite. When you reached out, I knew there was alignment there because a big part of my journey in healing and becoming a coach and everything that I've done really revolves around healing different aspects, right? But just to give you and the audience a little bit of background, right? So I was diagnosed with chronic hives about 4 years ago. And I began to just break out in hives from head to toe, just suddenly began to happen. And what ended up being was I went to so many doctors and specialists and got tests done of all kinds, blood work and skin tests and biopsies just to confirm what I had. Yes, it came out that it would be chronic, that it was chronic hives, but they all told me that they would not be able to identify where it came from. I wasn't allergic to anything and I would never know. So it's something that I just had to live with for the rest of my life. And one doctor said, just medicate, drink 4 of these pills a day. And I looked at him and I said, well, the bottle says 1 every 24 hours. And he said, you'll be fine. You can take up to 4 if needed. That right there didn't sit well with me. I'm the type of person that really, I need some sort of answers, right? And I know there's going to be times where answers are not going to, be revealed in the way that we believe. In this case, through traditional medicine, I was tired of going to different doctors and no one being able to tell me what it was. And so I began my journey down the holistic path, right? That was that was like the last thing that I was going to try. And I said, I've tried all these different things, different foods, changing diets, and nothing was working. So when I started down the holistic path, this particular coach said to me after we did an intake and, I shared about my life and this and that, she said, you've been living in survival mode for the last decade. And this is how your body is getting your attention. Essentially, she was telling me, you created your own disease. And we can help you. I can help you reverse this. It's going to take some time. And it has to all start with changing your way of being. Right? Now, Sarah, I said I'd give you a little bit of history on that. When she said I'd been living in survival mode for the last decade, that's because that's around the time motherhood really kicked in for me. And it's my son just actually turned 15 this weekend. And so I've got a 15-year-old son and we have identical twin daughters that are 13. And our daughters were diagnosed with 22q deletion syndrome. And this is a syndrome It's known as the most common syndrome no one has ever heard of because it's actually very common, but because it can manifest itself in over 180 different ways in the body, it is so easy for it to go undiagnosed. For our daughters, we knew while I was still pregnant that they both had a congenital heart defect. They had one kidney. And then there's this big spectrum, right, of what could possibly show up once they're born, once they start growing, once they start developing, right? And they tell you it could be over 180 different things in how it can show up in the body. So that in itself became, I guess I can now go back and say, became a traumatic pregnancy. Our son wasn't even 2, so we were parenting 3 children under the age of 2. And so it really did become a time where I was very overwhelmed, stressed. All the unknowns were appearing. And that's when I began to live in survival mode. My husband and I literally would just take it day by day. It was overwhelming. And our daughters had numerous appointments. I mean, every specialist you can think of, from their, cardiologist and immunologist and nephrologist and all of the above and all the different therapies. And we got them involved in everything that we could from the traditional standpoint, right? And we were watching right in front of us how well they were doing. But there was still a lot of work that went into that. Not just that, how do you keep a marriage alive, while working full time, while caring for 3 kids, 2 which require additional needs. And then how do you not feel guilty about your other child who inadvertently may not get as much attention because you've got 2 that you have to give extra attention to. And while my husband and I would try to balance, one would be with the girls, the other with my son, at the end of the day, it was still a lot. And that progressed and that progressed. Obviously, our daughters are doing fantastic. And I attribute all that to our ability to get them involved in so much, our ability to just think bigger than what we were being told. And my husband and I always had this great big vision of a beautiful, healthy family and how we didn't know how we were going to do this or support them or any of that. We just stayed very tethered to that vision that we had. And we were watching it unfold right before us. So, Sarah, it was a big, it came all together for me when I was sitting there in the office of this coach and going through my life story for her to get a bigger picture. And I'm sitting there and I'm crying and all these things are coming to me. But it was such a beautiful moment simultaneously, because when she said, you created this disease, essentially, I also knew I had the power to heal it. And I knew that because at this point, I was already a mindset and growth coach. I already knew how powerful it is to reprogram our mind to help us. I just hadn't connected my health to it. And when I say that, I mean, I know how it works. I just didn't realize what was happening with me to make that connection of, I created this based on my living style, based on not taking care of me because I've been so focused on taking care of my children. That was a big turning point in my life, Sarah, where I knew I could change things in my life. I had the power to do it. I just needed to get to work at that point.
Hey, sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to drop in and say thank you so much for listening to the podcast. And this isn't the only way I help people. I also have a book and a course called Heal Yourself, and I do one-to-one client coaching. Periodically, I run workshops and do some public speaking too. All these details are on my website, sarahdawkins.com. So with that, let's get back to this great episode.
Wow, that's an absolutely amazing story. And when we're in it, we can become so lost. Like you said, your focus is outward on making sure your children, your family are okay, that we forget often as parents that we need to take care of us ourselves too. So
Oh, yeah.
it's wonder your body started screaming at you.
Yeah, it absolutely. I mean, it really got my attention because it diverted my focus to me. I had to focus on me. And while I had started my own healing through coaching, I hadn't extended it to my healing my body. I mean, I was healing my mind, but I hadn't quite taken it to my body. And the moment I did that, Sarah, I had been working on healing, my inner child and a lot of things, right? So I love to say, with the clients that I coach, it all starts in your mind. Let's start by reprogramming our mind. And once we do that, we just have to feel it in our body, feel it in our heart, right? Because when we can move into that state of gratitude, into that state of love, those are like the highest levels that we can experience in our heart. And when we feel those, we automatically just feel it in our body. I mean, if we just close our eyes and feel that moment of love and gratitude, you can't avoid not feeling it all over your body. And so once I was able, it was almost like a step by step, right? I had to work on myself step by step. And my journey as a coach and becoming a coach really stemmed from losing my identity in motherhood, hitting that point where I no longer recognized myself. I didn't know who I was because I wasn't showing up as a mother I wanted to be. I wasn't showing up as the wife I wanted to be. As every title that society puts on us, I just wasn't showing up. And that's all because I lost touch with who I was as a woman, as a person. And so when I started to work on me and basically put everything else on hold, and by that, yes, putting my family on hold and everything. And I just say that not by like not taking care of them or anything. I'm like, just by, I'm going to pause and I'm going to see what it's like to take care of Criss first. And Sarah, I know you can relate to this, but once you start taking care of yourself, once you start healing yourself, guess what? There is that ripple effect in the family, and it just allowed them to just experience life differently. As I healed, they healed. And we are in such a beautiful place as a family. My husband began his own healing journey just by me being able to do it for myself. It's almost like it gives others that proof that you can do it too. And collectively, everything led to that. Now I sit here, I haven't had any hives in, I'm going to say, almost a year. And all the things that I thought were the cause of the hives, now I know it's not. It was me. And it's so fulfilling. It's so rewarding to know the power that we have as individuals, as human beings. I healed myself. You healed yourself. And all those individuals out there healed themselves as well. And it's just a matter of, what are you going to do about it? And it's beautiful.
All of our symptoms in our body, I believe, come from our subconscious mind, because our mind is trying to get our attention. And the only way it can do that is show up in our body. So when we develop these symptoms, it's our job to look for the underlying, the root cause. What is our body trying to say to us? And what do we need to do? We need to take back that responsibility and know that we've absolutely created it. Therefore, we can heal it. But it's not about blaming ourselves. It's about being compassionate and saying, like you did, I've created this, therefore I can heal this. But I need to know what it is, that the root cause that my body needs to express, however it's expressing.
And that's the main thing, because when we go to our medical providers searching for answers, and all we get is, you have this, you're never going, you got to live with it for the rest of your life. We don't know where it's coming from. And you go from doctor to specialist to test over test, and they're all telling you the same thing. It's almost like you begin to question the validity of what they're saying. And I just got to the point of, something is causing this, and I got to get to the root cause. And that's the sad part with our traditional, medicine, where it's like, here's a pill, patch it. I didn't want to patch. I wanted to heal. And so going through that journey and getting to the root cause, it was the biggest reward for me, knowing that I now had an answer. And it was an answer that I could do something about. And even in those moments where we don't believe we have the ability to heal it, I think we do. I truly believe we do.
Me too. And without pharmaceuticals.
Right.
Because we created it, therefore we can heal it. But we have to understand how we created it, why we created it. And quite often it's about coming back into ourselves, and connecting with that inner part of us that we've often lost touch with, that little inner voice that speaks so quietly. When we come back into that, it's got so much wisdom for us to help us on our journey. But we have to be quiet to hear that inner voice, to understand what it's saying.
Absolutely, because I don't know about you, but in the US, because I know you're in another part of the world, in the US, it's almost like busyness is worn with a badge of honor, and it's glorified, and you're so busy, and life is just about how busy you can be. And that's beautiful, right? For people that enjoy that. I didn't enjoy that. My life was busy, very busy, but I didn't enjoy busyness. And sometimes we just have to pause and go within to really identify, who are you? At its deepest core, who are you? What do you want in this life? And what are you going to do to get it? And those are some deep questions, obviously, as a coach, that a lot of people don't have the answers to. And when it's hard work, when it requires you to go really deep within, sometimes people don't want to do it because you don't know what it's going to reveal to you, or it reveals things to you that you don't know what to do with. But what I can say is, when I began to reprogram my mind and really embrace love and gratitude at a deeper level, I've always been a grateful person, and I've always loved deeply. But I'm talking about really feeling it in your heart. And then when I moved that into my body, right? It wasn't just feeling it in my heart, feeling it in my body, and then taking it that next step to heal myself. It was very powerful. But I'll tell you one other component. When I added the spirituality part of it, and I'm not talking about the religious part of it, because I grew up Catholic, very raised just in deep religion. And when I began to really connect at a deeper level with my soul, with my guides, with God, whatever you want to call it, whatever resonates with you, things began to just feel even more magical. Like if I knew I had the ability to do all of this, to reprogram my subconscious beliefs, to be able to break free of things that I'm carrying from childhood, from society, from religion, from my culture, from my upbringing, if I'm able to reprogram all that to what works for me, to what works for my family, be grateful for it. When I bring in that spiritual part of it, when I realize I really have the universe and God supporting me, that's a whole other experience there.
Yeah. And again, it's coming back into yourself, isn't it?
Yes.
Because quite often we're living outside of ourselves on autopilot. Well, 95% of the time on autopilot. So coming back into ourselves and tapping into that inner voice that some people call it God, others call it spirit, others call it inner wisdom or higher self. It doesn't matter. But there is a voice within inside of every one of us that's there for us, that wants to help us. And it's so powerful. But we have to take that time for ourselves to come back into ourselves, to hear it.
Yes. Because oftentimes the messages are there, they come through, they appear, but we don't do anything with it because we haven't sat still enough to see them, to hear them, because they're everywhere. They're everywhere. And as I began to just pay more attention, when I'm in my meditations, what is coming through, right? What are the messages that are coming through? And when I began to act on those things, even though I would act on them afraid sometimes because I'm not used to it, as I began to trust in my guides, in my own intuition and my higher self, whatever you want to call it, magic begins to happen in so many different ways.
Oh, it certainly does. It certainly does. And we don't have to even sit still in meditation. I do a meditation when I walk out with the dog twice a day, although not in the minute because it's boiling hot here in Spain. But in the morning, first thing, we go out for a walk. And for me, it's just tranquil and serene. And I'm just at one with nature. And that is a beautiful meditation. I'm out for about half an hour, 40 minutes. And so, we can do a walking meditation outside in nature. We don't have to sit indoors with ourselves. There's lots of different ways we can tap into that inner voice through different types of meditation. So thank you for sharing all of that wonderful information. And how are your daughters now? Are they thriving?
They are. They're 13, and things are going so well. I would say the most recent diagnosis that we got last year was around their immune system, and they are not producing. I can't tell you if I understand it because it's so complicated, but there's something that their body's not producing, and we're told it's not going to produce it, and they're getting infusions every 2 weeks. And so their question to me is, do we need to do this for the rest of our lives? And I said, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that right now. I said, I just want you to just go to bed thinking that you're healed. I want you to go to bed thinking that you're not going to need this anymore because your body produces everything, right? But they're 13. They're still a little bit on the younger side to understand everything fully. But I'm just planting those seeds in there, planting them in their mind. I don't know. I just know that we're very powerful beings.
Yes.
And if I can teach them how they can use their mind to heal certain parts of their body, I'm going to do it. And we're going to watch the magic happen. We're going to watch it happen.
Yeah, because as you know, you're a mindset coach, our mind is so powerful, and we can change our bodies, we can do all sorts through the power of our mind, but we have to tap into that again, don't we? And I think it comes down to belief. If we believe we can heal, we're halfway there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
And I believe it. I believe
Yeah.
it. And I believe I have the power to help others heal as well.
Yes, because healing it's like ripples in the water, isn't it?
It sure
You
is.
heal and those ripples just keep moving forwards and outwards and backwards and around us and affect everybody in our lives.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you, Criss.
Mhm.
And I know you shared a lot already, but could you share one tip that somebody who is maybe suffering with hives right now, something they could do to help themselves?
Oh, I'm going to say start by loving yourself first. We have to start there because whether it's hives or it's anything else, we need to start within. And how do you start, even at a micro step, is do one thing, just even if it's just one thing a day for you, whether that's, going out for a walk with your dog, sitting outside with a cup of coffee or tea quietly, meditating, writing, whatever it may be. Just anything. Start small. One or two things that you love. Do it for you, because when you start doing it for you, it's going to give you that power. Like when you love yourself deeply, you're going to do it and you're going to want to heal so beautifully. So I know it sounds maybe strange for some. Will start loving myself. But yes, take that as do one thing a day that you love and watch how that's going to change you little by little until you realize how powerful you are and you have the ability to heal yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Self-love is really important in the healing journey because of a lot of us have grown up not really loving ourselves and not understanding what that means. So finding things to do that we love, taking the time out for ourselves to do things for ourselves is really important.
And Sarah, I say that because we have to love ourselves to seek out the right support that we need.
Yeah.
And if you start there, the right people that are going to be there for your healing in whatever, whether it's hives, it's manifesting in hives, it's stemming from something else, right? So love yourself first, stay tethered to that, and the person that is intended to help you is going to show up in your life.
Yeah. Law of attraction. It's fabulous.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Criss. And where can people find you?
Yeah, connect on social media under Criss Madrigal. And my name is Criss. Last name Madrigal. And I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Those are the main ones.
Fabulous. I'll put all that in the show notes. Thank you for joining me and sharing your story for our audience.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening. Please share this podcast with anyone who you think will benefit. And can you leave me a review wherever you've listened to it to help me reach more people? Thank you.